Hey guys, we're at CES 2026. I'm Amy Mierzwinski, Group Director of Client Experience at Assembly Global, and I'm here with one of our clients, Josh Ginsburg, VP of Business Development at Simon Property Group, and we're really happy to have you.
Excited to be here.
Josh, you've had a big week of lots of conversations, lots of different meetings from media, tech, brand leadership. Everything you've seen over this week, has there been sort of a moment or an idea that you really feel has encapsulated where our industry's heading?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I almost want to answer that in with two answers. One is, first and foremost, the event at the Sphere with Lenovo was just, without a doubt, a moment unto itself. And I think anyone who didn't walk away just blown away, recognizing sort of what the outflow from that is going to be into 2026 and beyond, I'd be shocked. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. But it's interesting because you take a step back and all the different panel discussions, conversations, meetings, and what have you. I think what stood out is sort of the arc of, you look at the last couple years and there's been this sort of narrative and dialogue about what's coming, what could be, and it's been sort of this positional shift to it's here now, right? So you talk about technology, you talk about AI, and so it goes from this idea of experimentation to today it's application. So if you were having a conversation last year or the year before, it was with companies saying, here's what we're going to do, or here's what we can build. And the conversation this week and as we move forward is, this is what's here now, and here's how it's affecting and fits into people's lives. And so for me, it wasn't necessarily a moment, it was more this just inflection point that was the whole week.
Yeah, it's so true. Everything we've seen this week wasn't conceptual, it was real and it was ready. And you know, when we talk about things like innovation needing a stage, but also needing a space in the physical world, why do you think that handoff into the physical world matters so much?
Yeah, I mean, trust is built in real life. I mean, I think that's why the whole IRL acronym became its own buzzword, an acronym becoming a buzzword, and that's going to continue this year. And so I won't unpack the vagaries of why trust is under pressure, but the reality is that the physical environment is where people are able to touch, try, learn, build confidence, and ultimately make the choice, right? They're going to believe, and there's ultimately going to be attribution. And so from my perspective, that handoff is paramount, because I think companies that don't do the handoff, they're going to find even the greatest ideas will have, there's going to be some struggle for those ideas to stick if they don't show up in the real world, in the physical space.
Completely. So true. One idea we keep kind of coming back to in some of our conversations is putting humans before the technology.
Yeah.
And as somebody that works in like the physical media space as well as digital media, how do you think brands should start to rethink their partnerships and their relationships when they consider these real world spaces?
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to partnerships, I mean, I think it's about shared outcomes versus necessarily shared logos, right? So I think what's critical, and you see it, that's not necessarily new, but it hit home this week as you listen to a lot of different agencies and clients and different panels talking, and the reality is that it comes down to where the conversation and partnership starts, which is from the beginning, having a conversation, framing up what is the problem that we're going to solve together. And then this is the cool part. This is where the technology now comes in that wasn't necessarily here a year or 2 years ago, but it's very much here. It's now you're also framing up what's the outcome and how are we going to measure that. And so for me, the best partnerships are the ones who are having those conversations from the get-go, recognizing that there's some flux along the way and working to execute as they move forward.
Yeah, I love that solutions-based sort of thinking and approach, and it sounds like from your stance they need to really be working very iteratively and together throughout the collaboration process. It's not just like kicking off the partnership agreement and putting it all down on paper right away. It's really building that rapport over time.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. So when you think about it, for me, when I started 20 years ago, I can remember clear as day, it felt rigid. It was like, here's the agreement, here's the contract, here are the rights and benefits. And that was sort of what kind of landlocked you in terms of what you could do. And the partnerships that I've been involved with that have been uniquely and richly successful are the ones where, as you get going, from the beginning you articulate that there's going to need to be some flexibility. And then as you go, there's an element where you're almost building that plane a bit as you're flying it.
Yes,
and
completely.
having a client who trusts you, you trust them, and you're in it together to work towards a shared outcome.
Love it, love it. So as technology becomes more personal and complex, how do you think the physical environment can help people understand and engage with it more from a trust perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the physical space helps translate the complex into clarity, right? So again, it's a little redundant from what I had shared earlier, but from my perspective, people need to interact with, touch, see, experience. You're putting the driver behind the wheel to ultimately sell the car, and it doesn't have to be a physical product. We're talking about products now that when you're talking about AI, that's not something that you can see. And so as we move forward, more and more technology is going to be invisible, and they're going to rely upon physical spaces to take that meaning that's been derived and making it tangible.
Okay, awesome. I love that. So when this discovery starts to move beyond the screen, can you tell us how Simon is positioning your malls to be not just a place of transaction, but more of a place of confidence and connection?
Yeah, I love that question. And I drink the Kool-Aid. I've been with Simon for 20 years. So we're focused on relevance. And here's what's changed over 20 years that I could say, and it's sort of, I still almost get uncomfortable with it, but we're focused on relevance, sometimes to the extent that it's over retail for retail's sake. We are creating properties that are experiences and platforms for people to discover, get services, and also have shared experiences. That creates an environment for brands to come in with purpose and confidence, for our shoppers to be seen. And from my perspective, to take it back to your question about confidence, is from my perspective, and I'll give you an example, is that when one of our shoppers leaves our center more confident than when they came in, that is success for us. So let me give you an example. So I had the privilege of working with Humana this past year. And obviously we know that the government took a little bit of time to work through passing the budget, and that created a moment where there was uncertainty around healthcare.
Yeah.
And therein lied something absolutely powerful, that Humana was inundated with folks at our malls asking them just basic questions about their healthcare needs. They didn't necessarily know where to go, and there's a real person in our environment answering their questions. So very much so, and I think about this, and I think about it because my mom, who's over 80 years old and is a Humana customer, her and her friends, they're going to the mall to get the answers that they need so that they can literally leave more confident than when they actually came. And so for us, when we work in relationships like that, whether it's our endemic partner, our retailers and tenants, or our non-endemic partners, they all contribute to that, to help create that experience that gives the consumers confidence as they leave.
That's so amazing. Like, you wouldn't think when you're going in to just do some holiday shopping, they're going to be leaving as a more informed participant in your own healthcare conversation. I love that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, great. I love the example. To close this out, and I know it might be hard to pick just one, but what is one opportunity coming out of CES that you feel like brands cannot ignore going into the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, this may sound cliche, but it was the big elephant on the Las Vegas Strip. AI is here, and for me, it's about intentional integration, right? So, but to take a little bit of a liberal interpretation of the question, when you say brands, I think about brands now in two different sort of distinct spaces. One, brand in the classical sense, it's the company and the organization. But then I also think about brands as in Amy and Josh, right? We are our own personal professional brand. So I'll sort of work it through from the more classic example, which is companies have to stitch together solutions with AI and technology to create processes that drive outcomes. And they have to implement that across all the workflows. When they do that, it saves time, it drives efficiencies, the time saved, they take that, reinvest it, and that's where you get incrementality. You do that over a sustained period of time, it compounds, and that becomes exponential.
Yep.
Now, you and I, we're not any different, right? So I think and that's where you're gonna start to see the separation of companies who figure that out and do it well and do it intentionally. For the Amy's and Josh's of the world, this is also a critical inflection point where if you're not using AI, you gotta jump on that train. Because the reality is, our productivity is going to J-curve.
Yeah.
Because we're using it. We're using it in our personal lives, we're using it in our professional lives, and we're using it in a way that affects our output and what we're able to give and contribute. And for those that don't use it, you almost hate to say it, but you feel like they're going to get left behind.
Yes, completely. It's so true. And you do feel bad saying it, but I think, in your personal life and in your professional life, when you're using it to be more effective and efficient with your time, it not only makes a big impact in your work productivity, but it frees up that time for you to spend more time with your family or doing things that are meaningful in your life, and gives you, greater purpose to have that freedom and have the flexibility. So
100%.
I hope that people would learn to use it and continue to evolve, but if they don't, they'll get left behind.
Yeah.
So.
And the critical piece, I think, is it's not hard.
Yeah.
And so again, I would just say if anybody sees this and they take anything from this conversation, it's that it's here and it's not hard. And if you don't know, ask the questions, read the trades or what have you.
Ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you how to use it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Josh, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. I hope you enjoyed your time here at CES, and look forward to future convos with you.
Same. Thanks, Amy.